Just a quick explaining for you today on the major scale. Right, so we're going to take it from the very beginning, and basically, if you play all the white keys on a piano from C to C like this, you get what's called a C major scale. And what that means is that if a piece of music uses predominantly those notes, it can be said to be in the key of C major. All major scales have the same kind of sound to them, and that sound comes from the same pattern of intervals between each note in the scale. And that pattern looks like this. It goes tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So we get two tones, a semitone, three tones, and then a semitone. So I'll just talk through what that looks like. If we start on C, we go up a tone, we get to D. We go up a tone, we get to E. Go up a semitone, we get to F. I know that's a semitone because there's no black key in the middle. We go up a tone, we get to G. Go up a tone, we get to A. Go up a tone, we get to B. We go up another semitone, and we get to C. And that pattern of intervals is the same for every major scale. And that's great. It's a good thing to know because it means that we can now build a major scale on every other note. So I've got sort of 8 examples here. I won't play through all of them, but let's have a look at a couple. I've got D flat major here. We can start on D flat. I'll just pop this cursor down so you can follow on the keyboard. We go up a tone, we get to E flat. Go up a tone, we get to F. We'll go up a semitone this time, we get to G flat. Go up a tone, we get to A flat. Go up another tone, we get to B flat. Go up a tone, we get to C natural. And we go up a semitone, and we get to D flat. And so you can kind of hear, if I play that again, it's got, broadly speaking, the same sound as a C major scale. We'll do that again, we'll do it on D. So we'll take D as our starting note. We're going to go up a tone, we'll get to E. Go up a tone, we get to F sharp. Go up a semitone, we get to G. Go up a tone, we get to A. Go up a tone, we get to B. Go up a tone, we get to C sharp. Go up a semitone, we get to D. And again, that's got the same kind of sound as the other 2 major scales that we played through. But just looking through these 8 scales that I've written out here, you'll notice that some scales have got quite a lot of sharps and flats, and other scales have got very few. So just looking at D flat major, D flat major's got what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flats in it. Or D major has got 1, 2 sharps. We can have a look at a couple of other examples. We take E major. E major's got 1, 2, 3, 4 sharps in it. And so this is kind of important to note because what we can start to do is think about how keys are related to each other. And the way we might think about that is we might say, well, if 2 keys don't have a lot of notes in common, then they are quite distantly related. So for instance, if we look at C major and D flat major, even though they're very, very close together on the piano, I mean, it's literally as close as you can get. If you're going from C to D, you're literally going up a semitone. It's just to the key next door. It's as close as you can get in terms of pitch. But in terms of like the content of their major scales, they don't really have very many common tones. There's an F in common, that F and that F. And there's a C in common, this C, the C, the C. These 2 C's we're sort of counting as the same, so it's just the one common tone really. But the other notes are different. We've got a D flat, an E flat, a G flat, an A flat, and a B flat, which don't appear in C major at all. So we would say that C major and D flat major are very distantly related. And if we start to kind of look through this sort of circle of fifths, and look for keys that are very closely related, we start to discover a very important thing. So if we take C major again, the keys that are very, very closely related to C major, i.e. the keys that share a great number, the greatest number of common tones with C major, are G major and F major. G major, I'll just play that through, has essentially the same notes as C major, apart from one. G major has an F sharp in it, whereas C major has this F natural. But the rest of the notes are the same. There's a G here, a G there, an A there, an A there, a B there, a B there, a C there, a C there, and so on and so forth. So C major and G major are very closely related. And C major and F major are incredibly closely related as well, because they share 6 common tones and 1 sort of difference, as it were. F major has a B flat in it, whereas C major has a B natural. So looking at B flat there, B natural, that's where the difference lies. But it's just the one difference. The rest of the notes are common tones. And what we find is that if the keys that are a fifth away from each other, as in 5 letters away from each other, are very closely related, are incredibly closely related. So if we go from C to G, and I just sort of, do my sort of, easy interval counting. We go C, D, E, F, G. Okay, I've just counted 3, 5, so that's a fifth. And likewise, if we go from C to F, we find that F is a fifth below C. So if I start on C and then I count back a fifth, C, B, A, G, F, we find that, yep, I've counted 3, 5 keys. So that's also a fifth. And this relationship, these closely related keys, we can show on something called the circle of fifths. So here's what we were talking about before, but now represented slightly differently. The circle of fifths shows how keys are related to each other. So closely related keys are very close to each other on the circle of fifths. And that's what we saw with C major and G major and C major and F major. They're very closely related to each other because they share those common tones. And it also shows the key signature for each key. And the key signature are these sort of funny symbols that you get, that you've got here, next to each sort of key letter, as it were. And what key signature shows is the sharps or flats within a given key. So in order to play G major, I'd have to start on G, and if I follow my sort of tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone pattern, I'm going to need an F sharp to get that final sort of tone, semitone at the end. If I do that with D major, I'm going to need an F sharp and a C sharp. If I'm going to play A major and I follow my major scale pattern, I'm going to need F sharp and C sharp and G sharp. And you'll find that these sharps sort of accumulate as you go round, as you go clockwise around the circle of fifths. Likewise, if I want to play F major, and I start on F and I do my tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone pattern, I'm going to need a B flat to as part of that major scale. If I start on B flat and I want to make a B flat major scale, so I start on B flat, I do my tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. In order to do that, I'm going to need a B flat and I'm going to need an E flat, and so on and so forth round the rest of the circle of fifths. So that's broadly speaking what these sort of key signatures show us. I should also say that it's very easy to see keys that are very distantly related. So if we look at C major and D flat major, you remember that C major and D flat major had very few notes in common. And so they are really distantly related. You can see that at a glance on the circle of fifths because C's up here and D flat is right the way down here. So there's we're going from like 12 o'clock down to 7 o'clock. There's quite a way to go. So those keys are very distantly related. But equally, see, D flat major is closely related to A flat major and G flat major. Okay, so how else might the circle of fifths be useful? Well, if we know, because it shows us our key signatures, it shows us the sort of the sharps or flats within a given key, we can use it to kind of identify the keys of different pieces. So I've got a piece here, and we can just sort of look at the key signature and we go, okay, cool. This piece is in G major. And I can tell that because the key signature's got just one sharp in it. And if, if I needed to remind myself of what that key was, I could go back, I could look at the circle of fifths, and I could go, okay, one sharp in the key signature. Okay, that's likely to be G major. Perfect. I could, similarly with this one flat, I'm going, okay, great, I've got the key signature here, it's got one flat in it, and if I didn't remember the key for, that particular key signature, I'd go over to my circle of fifths, find the key with one flat in it, okay, great, it's F major, it's got to be F major. And that's how you might use the circle of fifths to identify a major key. But sometimes that can be quite cumbersome. You don't always want to be like carrying a circle of fifths around with you and, for you to refer to. It seems a bit impractical. So there is a shortcut. And so if you've got, say, a key signature with lots of sharps, you can have up to, 6, 7 sharps in a key signature. What you can do for sharp keys, for key signatures that include sharps, you can look at the last sharp and then go up one semitone from that sharp. So this is an extract in D major, and the last sharp here, I know it's in D major because the last sharp is C sharp, and I can go up one semitone from that C sharp. If I go up one semitone from C sharp, I land on D, and that piece is very likely, therefore, to be in D major. And there's also a shortcut for flat keys. If we take a key signature for a flat key, the key that the piece is in is always the same as the penultimate flat. So I've got 3 flats here. I've got B flat, E flat, and A flat. The penultimate flat is an E flat, so the key is very likely to be an E flat major. Right, so that's broadly speaking all we have to say at the moment about major keys and sort of the way major keys relate to each other and how you can see those relationships on the circle of fifths. I hope that's helpful, and thank you for listening. See you next time.